Welcome to the Mom and podcast. We're your hosts, Suzanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together.
Welcome to the Mom and podcast. I'm Missy Stevens, mom and writer, foster care advocate, and today, vacation recoverer.
So jealous. And I'm Suzanne Kearns, mom and writer, LGBTQ and sex ed advocate. And today I'm a procrastinating office cleaner. So you'll notice I've got some new books behind me.
Well, we're really excited to have Pat Duckworth on the show today. We met Pat through Kay Newton, who, if you're a regular listener, was on the show last month, and we just knew we needed to chat with her. Pat is a best-selling author, an international speaker, a specialist in the area of wellness at menopause. She enjoyed a 30-year career in the British Civil Service, becoming a director in a major department. She has written 5 books on the subject of women's health at midlife. She has worked with organizations in the public and private sectors, and received the Heart and Spirit Award from the Evolutionary Business Council in 2022. I want to talk about every bit of your career in 1 hour.
I know. And you know what? I know just the bio, it says a lot, but it really doesn't capture who you are as a person. So I'd love for you just to share a little bit more about your story, where your career started and how it's progressed over the years.
I didn't go to university. I came out of school, went straight to work because I wanted to make some money. And I entered public service here in the UK, and I trained to be what is a chartered surveyor here, which is kind of like an appraiser, but doesn't it sound better as a Royal Institution, a chartered surveyor member?
Absolutely.
It does. You get to wear a crown.
Only on Sundays. But so for the next 30 years, I worked in public service, in the civil service, and made my way up. And I became a director. I was working in corporate governance, which again sounds very serious. And I'm not a terribly serious person. And then I was going to work one day. I was walking through the centre of London. The sun was shining off of Buckingham Palace in the distance. Big Ben was sounding the hour. And I realised I was crying. I was crying because I'd got to the point in my career where I'd achieved what I'd wanted when I was 18. And it wasn't what I thought it would be. I wasn't happy. And I was travelling 4 hours a day, working really hard, not being appreciated. And I thought, I can't do this for another 10 years. This isn't where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I got home and said to my long-suffering husband, I can't go on doing this. And he said, good, it's time you realised that. And
wow.
so
Had he just been waiting for you to catch up on knowing
Like
what
the rest
he knew?
of us have been aware.
Yeah. You're stressed out. You need to change. You're not happy. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but I think it's something to do with helping people. I'm really interested in neurolinguistic programming. I'm going to look for some courses. So I signed up to do this course with the Quest Institute that was hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming. And I could do it like one weekend a month for nearly a year. And I thought, well, even with the commuting and the job, I can fit that in and then see where it goes. And I took the step, I enrolled, I was like waiting for it to start a few months later, and the universe went, well done. Would you like early retirement? And I was like, I would love early retirement. Up came an early retirement scheme at work. I signed up for it, and then I had to sit and wait to hear whether I got it or not. And by the time I started my NLP course, I knew I was getting early retirement. And by the time I was like 3 months in, I had my retirement party and I could just really get on with studying. And as soon as I finished, I started up my own business, which was all totally new to me. And that was in 2010.
Oh my gosh. I love this idea of your retirement not being an end. It's more like a college graduation. It's more like
that's my dream. I don't want this like stop.
No.
And then
No, I I mean, since then, I've written 5 books. I've traveled the world speaking. I've run courses. And when people say to me, "When are you going to slow down?" Like, why would I
Right.
slow down? I don't know how
Right.
long I've got. I've got to keep going.
Oh my God. I love that so much. And now this has nothing to do with anything that we're really talking about today, but I really got to know, what is neuro-linguistic programming?
Oh, it started over there in the States, and it is about the way the brain works and how we express ourselves through words, but also through our behavior and our actions. And it kind of considers the brain like a computer. And often when we've got problems, it's like there's a little bug got into the computer. If we can get the bug out, then the computer can work properly again.
Hmm.
So I've done a
Ooh,
lot
I
of
like it.
therapy with individual clients on issues from anxiety, loss of confidence, phobias, weight gain, and dealing with it as, well, something's just gone a bit wrong in the system, and how can we put it right again?
How
Oh, I like
interesting.
it.
I'm glad I asked.
I know. It's fascinating.
Yes.
And it kind of, speaking of bugs in the system, like Suzanne and I both have a big bug in the system right now, which is menopause. I know that's not really a bug. I know it's supposed to happen,
It's
but
working just as it's
uh,
supposed to.
it is working like it's supposed to. I am on the cusp of starting some hormone replacement and getting my last ovary out of there. And Suzanne she started hormone replacement early on. So she's not having the hot flashes and all that fun that I have been having. So we are well aware of some of the things that happen to you, but what should we and what should women who are just slightly behind us be doing to prepare for this phase of life?
That is such a good question, because a lot of women don't want to talk about it, so they
Mm-mm.
don't do any preparation. It's like they put their fingers in their ears and go, la, 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 don't
Yep.
tell me about it. I don't want to know. Like that's going to stop it happening. It's much better to think about it as setting the foundations for the next 30, 40, 50 years of your life. If you make good decisions now, you'll be so much fitter as you move into the next stages of your life. So that's why it's such a great question, because there are things you can do around your nutrition. Really like stopping and going, am I eating the right things? Now, I know the
Mm,
right things is a really big topic just in
right.
itself, but it's being aware of the wrong things as well, because some things can really trigger you to have symptoms at menopause. And if you take them out of your diet, then, you can really mitigate the symptoms. So these are never popular when I say them, but it's things like foods with lots of sugars in them, because
Hmm.
sugar heats up the system. Once you're heading towards menopause, you've got less estrogen in your system, and the estrogen helps your body with creating insulin. So now you're becoming more insulin sensitive. It means that you can't
Interesting.
process sugar as well. So anything that's got a lot of sugar in it, and so much stuff has these days, the more
Yes.
you can eliminate it, the better. Caffeine, here we go. This is what makes me so unpopular. Um,
I'm good. This is my one thing that I've got
Yeah,
working
this is
for me.
Suzanne's good in
I
this
can't
area.
drink
She's
coffee, so that's good.
I
yeah.
can't drink coffee, so this is why I don't really get it, because I'm like,
I
um,
can, and I love it.
but reducing your caffeine intake or restricting it to the morning, because caffeine has
Right.
a half-life of about 8 hours. So you've
Right.
drunk it in the morning, it's still pretty active in the evening.
Hmm.
Caffeine heats up the system. It's going to disrupt your sleep. It's just winding you up a bit. So the more
Mhm.
you can reduce your caffeine, the better you'll be. My next unpopular suggestion is limiting or eliminating alcohol. Alcohol is not your best friend. It's one of those false
Oh,
friends that says, come on, let's go and party. You'll be okay. And then you get to the party and alcohol leaves you standing in the corner and says you're on your own, because
mhm.
it again heating up the system. It is a depressant. So at this
Yeah,
stage of life, when your mood is swinging about, the last thing you need is a depressant.
Hmm.
There's all the sugars in alcohol. It affects your sleep. Doesn't give you good sleep. This is the
right.
other lie it tells you. A little drink, you'll sleep
It'll
better.
help
Go
you
right to sleep.
relax.
Yeah.
Okay, now
It
when you say
doesn't.
heating up your system, I am going to like the standard menopause, like hot flash? Do you mean heating up your system that way, or what is it doing to you?
Yeah, so it can cause the hot flushes. A lot of women find that if they stop and understand it, they realize there's a pattern between the glass of red wine they have on a Friday evening and the fact that they don't sleep so well Friday night because they're getting all hot and bothered.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
alcohol can actually heat up your system as your body tries to process it. Also, the sort of interaction with cortisol and adrenaline, your stress
Uh,
hormones, and those two hormones inflame your system. They put it onto a hotter setting, so it can trigger you into feeling more stressed.
Hmm.
And then once you feel more stressed, then some of the other things like the worry and the anxiety kick in. And yeah,
yes.
so
I've cut
yeah,
way, way back after my pandemic
yeah,
skyrocket of cocktailing, and I've cut way, way back, and I have noticed a huge difference in my sleep. Like, I'm a better person.
yeah.
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 We need sleep. We need
We
good
need it.
sleep. And when
Yeah.
the quality of it gets disrupted at menopause, that's when we can start to get the next thing, which is the brain fog.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay!
I
Um,
know. I mean, seriously, menopause during the pandemic. I mean, you just can't even tell what's what as far
Ugh,
as,
it was
yeah.
horrible timing to start with hot flashes and brain fog.
Yeah.
And then it's a pandemic, so everybody's anxious. So and everybody's having more cocktails than they would. I mean, I was a full disaster. Like,
yeah.
And all of our teenagers are going through puberty right now.
right.
So yeah,
And I've got
yeah.
hormonal people living with me, and I'm hormonal, and it's fun. It's fun here.
Oh,
Absolutely. It all adds to it. So, yeah, eliminating some of the things like the more unprocessed foods you can eat, the more natural foods, because when food gets processed, there's more chemicals gone into it that your body's got to handle. Often they've
Mhm.
slipped a bit more sugar in there
Of
and
course.
some other things that you don't really want. So, eating the plainer food. And recently, I've seen a few people who specialize in menopause from different areas of it talking about the Mediterranean diet. You know, if you're
Mhm.
looking for a way of eating, then the kind of lean protein, lots of veggies, some fruit, the healthy oils, the avocados, the olive oils, getting the fish in there as well. So you're getting some omega-3. So I think the simplest description of a good way of eating would be the Mediterranean diet.
That's what my doctor recommended. So we've been really trying to switch.
Yeah, really helpful. And Lisa Mosconi, who has done a brilliant TED talk about what happens to the brain at menopause, she at the end of it is saying one of the things that can help you with brain function is a Mediterranean diet.
Yeah,
okay.
we
So
need to go
I need
all
to
in then.
Google Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
And so actually, yeah, one of my questions, and I'm sure capitalism, America likes to turn everything into some type of marketing scam. So
Yeah.
for people who are getting, getting Facebook ads for like
Mhm.
this pill will solve everything or this special diet will save everything. So people should just completely ignore all of that and just stick to the basics. I mean, what we've always heard, Mediterranean diet, I mean, it's not like you're not paying money to a company to do
No.
that. It's just a way of looking at the food on your plate and thinking
Yeah,
How you
about
yeah,
what
it's
you're
shop,
not,
how
eating.
you eat.
yeah, you don't need a book. You can just look at it, think, oh, okay, that's what I need to be having. And I can see that there are some things that aren't in this way of eating. And yeah, there's certainly, even down to food supplements, you know, there are specialist food supplements for menopause. And of course, there's always a premium price to pay for them.
Right.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, a simple multivitamin and some minerals is all you need.
Yeah. You don't need to put the name menopause on it for it to count
No.
and double the price.
Right. Right. For desperate women.
And you know what? We jumped right into talking about menopause. And one of the biggest things that was confusing to me and kind of just I want to make sure I'm still not confused about it is the difference between menopause and perimenopause. So can you give us the
Yeah.
definition and help us differentiate between those two?
That is a common confusion because we tend to use the term menopause really loosely, like I'm going through my menopause. In fact, menopause is one day, it's the day a year after your last menstrual period. And you might think, well, why isn't it just the day of my last menstrual period? Because you don't know it was your
You
last
don't
menstrual
know.
period
Right.
because your
Oh.
hormones are still fluctuating. So
Mhm.
I hope I won't be oversharing here, but my periods were absolutely regular. And then 1 month they didn't come. And
Mhm.
then they didn't come for another 11 months. And I thought, that's it, I'm done. And then, like, on the first anniversary, back came another period. So
Ah.
I hadn't gone
Not
through
so welcome.
menopause.
You're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Start the clock running again because now it's all started again and I've got to wait another year to know I've been through menopause. So that menopause is just that one day. Perimenopause is all the months, years leading up to menopause when your reproductive hormones are reducing and you might start to get some symptoms. So whether you get symptoms or not, your reproductive hormones are reducing, the levels of them are gradually going down. And for some women, it's happening so gradually, they're not noticing it. And then one day it's like, I seem to have put on some weight, or why aren't I sleeping so well? Or how come I can't remember the children's names and birthdays anymore? And that's it,
I know.
But it's all been going on for like 10, 12 years, and you just haven't been aware because it's just been in the background.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
once you actually hit menopause then, like, are you done with the hard stuff? Like, is that like your celebratory birthday, or is there still more to come after that? Asking for a friend.
Well, you can tell your friend that the symptoms can carry on because you're waiting for your hormones to kind of balance back out again.
Mhm.
They balance back out, but at a reduced level to what they were before. But during this time of perimenopause, the progesterone, so the two hormones we're really looking at, estrogen and progesterone, the progesterone tends to reduce faster than the estrogen, and you end up in something called estrogen dominance. And that kind of imbalance between those hormones can be why you're experiencing more symptoms. So you're waiting for them to even back out. And so the hot flashes eventually just drift away. The energy comes back. Hopefully, you start sleeping better. And, the brain fog is clearing and you're getting on with life. But of course, you have got older. I hate to say it, but you've got older. And so your
What?
skin doesn't suddenly spring back to being
Mm-mm.
18-year-old skin.
Yeah.
You're still dealing with the process of getting older. And, when people say to me, I don't want to get older, I think, well, I'll
What's
take
the
it over the
alternative?
alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now I'm sure there's a million different opinions around this, but hormone replacement therapy, I don't know if this is an American thing versus a European thing. It's very common just for that's just the automatic thing. Just you hit
Mhm.
this certain point and then the doctor starts prescribing things. And I have not had any complications with them, but I'm sure that there are things down the road. I mean, there's pros and cons and risks and
Right.
benefits.
Of anything like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very curious your thought on it. What should we be thinking about? Is it just something that you use to get over some symptoms and then you wean yourself off them? Is it something you shouldn't even start and just let your body take care of things naturally? Like, what are your thoughts?
So back in 2001, the World Health Initiative came out with their report on hormone therapy. And it was the first kind of mass piece of research. And they actually stopped the research because so many women in their research group were developing breast cancer and other complications. And this had
Right.
a really chilling effect on the prescription of hormone therapy.
Mm.
And I've spoken to OBGYNs in America who said, there was a whole load of years when doctors wouldn't prescribe it
Right.
because they were so concerned about what the side effects could be. And then more research was done into the initial research, and they realized that a number of the women were in the research group were put on it later, like they'd already gone through menopause. There were
Mm.
women who were smokers, who were overweight, and they hadn't really broken the results down. And so gradually, the kind of generalized results of that have been looked at and said, no, there is still a risk, but it's a much smaller risk than was initially said in that report. So if you have a family history of breast cancer or blood thickening, then you need to talk to your doctor about your family history. So that's the kind of background to where we are today. And I think a lot of the fear around taking hormone therapy still goes on, and it still goes on with doctors as well. And here in the UK, I think it's probably less common that doctors jump straight in and say, let's do hormone therapy.
Mhm.
But I think whether you're going down that route or not, what I was saying earlier about this is a chance to really think about your background health, how you're eating, how you're exercising, your lifestyle. Because hormone therapy isn't a silver bullet. It's not going to sort your life out. It's just dealing with the imbalance in the hormones. And this is such an opportunity to think, right, I've got to this stage. Thank you, body. You've got me to this stage in my life. And now I just need to reassess, how have I been looking after you and what could we be doing differently? Now, some women, I mean, initially, and particularly after the WHI report, women were told that they could only stay on hormone replacement therapy for a certain number of years.
Mhm.
And now there have been so many changes in formulation, dosage, delivery mechanisms that a lot of doctors now say, stay on it as long as you like. Again, it really depends on your health and your genetic history, your family history.
Right.
If you stop taking it, you can start to get symptoms, because then your body's withdrawing and going, what
Mhm.
happened to my happy hormones? They're gone.
All
Yeah.
right.
Is there a point when we're looking at symptoms that are all really normal, quote unquote normal as anything is in menopause? Is there a point where we can say, this maybe isn't normal? This is something I really need to talk to my doctor about?
Yeah. And so some things get misdiagnosed as menopause and some things in the opposite direction. So you might be experiencing heavier menstrual bleeding and you think, oh, well, I've heard that that is about menopause. Or the doctor might go, oh, well, at your age, that could be menopause. But it could be
Mhm.
fibroids,
Right.
which aren't going to harm you, but they might get really uncomfortable and,
Annoying.
you might need to have some action around them. You might find that you're putting on a bit of weight, you're feeling tired and fatigued, and that might be diagnosed as menopause. And in fact, you've got an underactive thyroid. So there are a number of different things, that symptoms, where you need to step back and say, is this to do with my menopause, or is this some sort of underlying health condition? And that's why it's complicated for doctors,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
trying to look at the whole person and think, well, I can see what age you're at, but what else is going on here?
Yeah. And I encountered that, and the doctors need to be looking out for this stuff, but it's confusing for them too, because I had that. I was putting on weight, and now, not this is pre-pandemic. I understand where my pandemic weight has come from,
Oh, yeah.
but this was
I can name that.
pre-pandemic. But I
Mhm.
had a doctor whose response to it was, "Oh, well, it's just that time of life where you're just going to gain weight." And I was like, I don't think so. I mean, I was doing the same, that I was eating the same, I was exercising the same. And I had been on thyroid supplements since I was 18 in college, but it just happened to be that my body was not metabolizing the T4 hormone
Yeah,
properly. So I actually needed a T3 supplement.
yeah,
So, all the same thyroid tests that they'd been running since I was 18 years old were looking great,
Uh-huh.
but it took an endocrinologist to dive into this and figure it out. I mean, so I can't even really blame the doctor, but it's one of
no,
those things that you really need to advocate for yourself and be able to say, no, this doesn't feel right. I respect your professional opinion and know you know more about this than I do, but I also know more about me and what's normal for me, and
yeah.
to speak up about that.
Self advocacy is so important.
Yes.
You understanding your body and doing a bit of research into menopause, because it is complicated, and you could go to the doctor, and I don't care whether they're a woman doctor or a man doctor, They've had the training, but they haven't had that much training in menopause, and they haven't had a lot of
No.
training in you personally.
Mhm.
And
Right.
when you turn up, if you say, well, I think I'm going through menopause, and they say, well, you're too young.
Mm.
Um, no, you're not. You may not be too young.
Yeah.
If you're 45 and a doctor says to you, you're too young,
You're
no, you're not
not.
too young. Um,
Yeah.
you might be young on the general scale of it, but you're not too young to be experiencing these symptoms. And that's when you really have to be prepared to say, well, I don't think this is me, and I think I should have some tests done, or,
Mhm.
let's look at it a bit more rather than just dismissing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's such a good lesson for anything in life is just you trust your
You
gut.
know you.
Trust your gut when something
Yeah.
doesn't seem right. And if that first doctor isn't hearing it, then get a second opinion or
Yeah.
dive into it a little
Right.
deeper. Oh, so
Right.
you've written a few books, but I want to talk a little bit about Menopause Mind the Gap. You dive into the really important topic and something that I had not even thought about because we are stay-at-home moms, but this idea of dealing with menopause in the workplace. And so, I mean, that's a whole set of different things. I'd love to hear that
Yeah.
perspective just because we've not experienced that, but also Missy and I have this quote unquote management team of a couple of hormonal teenagers and husbands who may be just as confused by menopause symptoms as, a boss or a manager or people in the
Mm.
workforce. So, for women in any situation, how can we help build this supportive environment that we need in our community, home, workplace?
So, I mean, this is the really important point that women who feel supported at menopause have a better experience of menopause. Because if you don't feel supported, if you don't feel you can talk about it causes stress. It causes internal stress. You're trying to keep
Yes.
something a bit of a secret. You're trying not to show that what you're going through, and that causes stress that then causes you to have more symptoms.
Mm,
So, building support around you is really important. And it starts with being able to talk about it. So,
yeah.
just letting people know this is a subject we talk about. I have a friend who, when we were both going through menopause and we were both doing business networking, and she would be there and suddenly she'd like pick up a serviette and start going, oh, oh, I'm having a hottie, everybody. It will pass in a minute. And I just think, well, that is really brave. Because most women are like, oh, I hope nobody notices me.
Uh-huh.
But she was just like, this is all normal. I don't see what the problem is. We're just
Yeah.
Right.
talking about it. If you were having this, I'd be okay with you. So you might not want to be that overt about it, but just it's how strong you
I
feeling.
probably will.
Yeah. Like, I definitely will.
But just being able to talk to the children, talk to your husband about what your experience, talk to a partner, talk to your friends. It's amazing how women won't talk to their women friends about
Yes.
it.
Mm,
Like
Yes.
it's some dirty secret and like, oh, we can't let on how old we are. What
Right.
is
And your
going on
friends
with it?
probably know how old you are, at least roughly. Like,
they know
They
how old
probably
they
see it on
are.
Facebook every year.
right. Right.
It is being able to say something about it. Now, you've got to judge your audience. You don't want to be talking to everybody about, all the gooey stuff. But, just being able to say, well, this is just like being a teenager. You know what you're going through? I'm going through it too. And you remember being a teenager? This is what it's like. The mood's
It
going up and
is.
down, and I don't know how I'll be each day. Having that conversation at work really relies on building that culture of openness around the
Mhm.
subject. Now, I think we're fortunate in the UK that we're probably a bit ahead of this particular game because I think I gave my first talk about menopause in the workplace in 2015.
Wow.
And
Mm,
that was actually quite unusual at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
to be walking into a big government department and talking to managers and mixed audience about this is what menopause is and this is what you can be doing about it. But it has really grown since then. And a lot of companies, organizations are putting in place menopause policies. So they're saying, right from the top, this is something we talk about. And sometimes women, when I'm talking about it, they say, should we be talking about this? Because it's another excuse for employers not to employ us.
Oh,
And my response to that is, well, when I started work, I am so old that when I started work, you didn't get equal pay. Women automatically earn less than men did. I started work, and the young guys sitting next to me were earning more than I was just because they were guys.
Yeah.
And
I
when we
think that
started,
happens a lot still, unfortunately.
yes.
and when we
Yeah.
started talking about it, women were like, oh, let's not talk about it. We might not get jobs if they have to give us equal pay. Well, it happened. We had legislation, and now you can't have exactly the same job at a different amount of money. And then it was like, oh, we need to be paid when we're off on maternity leave. Let's not talk about it. Employers won't employ us.
Yes.
More recently, mental health issues. Let's not talk about mental health issues. And now it's very openly discussed on companies have mental health first aiders. Because it's recognizing employees are people. They have stuff going on.
Right.
Yes.
And they all live in bodies that do crazy things.
Yes. And they all do the same things. It's a pretty predictable track.
It is.
Well, and your book points out that women over 50, that's the fastest growing demographic in the workplace. I mean, we find that fascinating and encouraging.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging. And a lot of our listeners are long-term stay-at-home moms who may be thinking, how do I do this? I've got the significant career gap. I've got these crazy hormones. There's all this stuff happening. We know from reading your book some of what you say, but can you share with our listeners what really can help them feel more confident going into this phase of their life, trying to bridge the gap?
Yeah. So I think it's understanding that this is a temporary part of your life. And, some of those feelings of loss of confidence or that your brain's not working very well, they're partly hormonal. And once you get to the other side of this stage, you do get a boost of energy. A lot of women feel a lot more passionate about what they're doing. A lot of women do change their careers at this stage of life because they look around and go, is this what I really want to be doing for the rest of my life? And I think if you follow your passion, something that gives you joy, something that excites you, then you can put your energy into it. You can start to think, okay, if I'm doing this, I really want to get up in the morning to do this thing. And then that message goes out to the universe of this is what I'm doing. And it's surprising how you start to attract what you need, the resources you need. And I hope it's encouraging for other women that I had never been an entrepreneur before I got to my menopause and walked away from my career. I hadn't done any of this. I've learned it all. So don't be kind of put off by all the negative messaging around it. You are perfectly capable of learning whatever technology you need to learn. You're perfectly capable of going networking. You're capable of doing courses and finding stuff on Google and whatever you need to do. It's all possible for you. And then you can really start to enjoy it and think, well, I don't know when I will retire because actually I just want to keep going. Why would I retire? Because if I'm enjoying it and I'm meeting people and I'm doing the things I want to do, retirement was about being too old and too infirm to do anything anymore.
Right. Yeah. And for some reason we decided that was roughly 65. Like,
I
that's
know.
crazy.
I think of all
There's
the
so much life left after that.
65-year-olds I know. I'm like, what? No. I mean, you're just getting started on this exciting new chapter. It's definitely not an end to anything. And I love that your retirement ended up being actually blossoming into this whole new evolution of yourself. I love it. Oh.
Yeah, so I think that's important, and for women to see role models and think, oh, well, that person's doing it.
Yes.
So it's not like you get to 65 and the shutters come down.
That's such a sad way of looking at it. Like, it makes me sad for people who are like, well, I'm done.
I'm just going to sit in the chair now and read the paper.
I can't fathom it. No.
No, there is no way. Oh, well, I think you are an inspiration. And I think
Yes.
that your books and your seminars and everything that you do is just so important for giving that hope. And I think even thinking of it, I always thought of it as menopause is like, okay, now you're this whole new person for the rest of your life. And it's just, I hope you enjoyed the first half, whatever. But just thinking of it as this period of change, and then things kind of like the puberty with our kids. We're not like, oh, you're going through puberty now, and then it's all over.
That's
Like,
it for you.
I mean, it's this, things eventually do settle down and you get this new normal. And I think that's a different way of thinking of it. I think I just thought of menopause as like, that is your new normal is the menopause, not that it's just this
Yeah.
period of time and then you come out on the other side of it. So
I do think maybe generations before us talked about it in this sense of like, I'm dried up and dead. And it's just not the case. There's a lot still to accomplish after that.
yes.
Well, even if we went back a few generations, a lot of women didn't make it to menopause.
True.
Because the actual age of menopause has really stayed pretty much the same for hundreds of years, which is
that's interesting.
weird when we think about our evolution and the fact our diet has changed, our lifestyles have changed so much.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But lots of women didn't have the privilege of getting this far.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good, you know?
Yes, I know. Yeah. Like you said, what's the alternative?
Yeah, I love looking at it like that. That's really makes it exciting.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I could just talk to you all day about this, but so for everybody else who still wants to learn more too, do you have any upcoming events or seminars, or what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, if they go to patduckworth.com, they can see what I do generally, and they're very welcome to find me there. And there are contact details there as well. And I blog just about every week on some aspect of menopause. And the hotwomencoresolutions.com website has a whole bunch of free gifts associated with it. Don't worry, I don't write to you every day. I'm sure my business coach would love me to write to you every day, but I don't. But there's a whole bunch of free gifts there to help with menopause, and you're really welcome to find them there.
Yeah. And the radio show is there too, as well.
Oh, yes. Gosh, I should mention that. So on talkradio.nyc, so American-based radio station, every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time is Hot Women Rock. And yeah, nobody minds being a hot woman. They just don't want to be menopausal. So this is for all the hot women. And I talk to a whole range of people there, and we cover everything, and we use words like vagina and
our favorite. We're big fans. Oh, well, terrific. And we will have links to all those things in the show notes, just in case anyone's driving and can't write any of those down. We'll have them all in the show notes. And I think it's just about time for our Look, Listen, Learn segment, right? So our Look, Listen, Learn segment, just in case you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're so glad you're here. But it's just a time when we each share something that we've been watching, reading, listening to, or learning about that you might enjoy incorporating into your life, just in case you're like me and Missy and have hit the end of Netflix and need some new ideas of things to do.
It's over. There's nothing left.
It's over. We've done it all. And we never like to put our guests in the hot seat. So I'm going to kick off first so you can get a feel for the flow of it. But the thing that I have been looking at, we just looked at it for the first time last night, is called Welcome to Earth. And I had never heard of it before, but we always find it's difficult to find something that the whole family can watch together. I've got a 12-year-old son, 16-year-old daughter. I don't know how old my husband is, but anyway, but something that we can all enjoy and that's appropriate for the kids. So this Welcome to Earth, it's Will Smith. So the actor, the rapper actor, Will Smith, he starts it off. It's really funny because you think of him as this action star hero in some of the movies and stuff that he's done, but he's basically doing this confessional of like, I've never slept in a tent overnight. Like I've never gone hiking, like just these things that you're like, what? I'm
a movie action
you're a
hero,
full-grown human, and you've never done any of these things. But so he's kind of confession, but he's like, okay, so I reached out to some people that, we're going to go basically to the ends of the earth. I'm not just going to
Mm-hmm.
sleep in a tent overnight. I'm going to go do it in the most remote location possible. So the episode last night, he went into a volcano. I think it was somewhere, it's Australia, New Zealandy. It was somewhere
Okay.
over in that area. So it was very interesting because he was rappelling down into this volcano with the volcanologist. So that was nice that there was a pro there. But the other man that he was going with, who was kind of the opposite of him, has climbed all the tallest peaks on every continent, has done Mount Everest. But he is also, you don't find out until like 10 minutes into the show that he's blind. And so it was very interesting because it's the most active volcano, I think one of the most active in the world. I mean, it was spitting lava. There was one point where, I mean, it spit something out and they're like, they had these little bike helmets on, and Will Smith is like, really, this is gonna like protect me if like this glob
Flames on my head.
Yeah, molten lava lands on my head. But it was really interesting as he was trying to communicate to Will. I'm just gonna call him Will, like he's my buddy, communicating to Will how different like his body could feel, when you're at a concert and you can feel the music inside your chest, but how his body would feel the sound before you could hear it, and just the way he was experiencing the volcano in a whole different way from the sound
Super
of it.
cool.
But basically he was saying, I can, because he had a degenerative eye disease going into high school. So he had been sighted before. So he's, knew some ideas of what colors were and everything, but enough that he said sounds still communicate to his brain to a point that he sees it. So it was really fascinating, just the way they communicated about it.
All right, adding that to the list.
Yeah. And then Will did not go here. And I think it was because I was like, I don't know if he would have fit. They sent a bunch of people into this. It's the quietest or the least sound place in the world. And you have to go like, I mean, you had to slide. I was hyperventilating.
I will never go there.
When these people were sliding through these like, yeah. But then they get to this place and they're like, okay, it's so quiet. And then of course, like our dogs are licking their butts and things are going on outside. I was like, we don't fully appreciate how quiet that is like y'all do, but I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So it was a very just interesting, the sensory things that they were discussing in this show. So I thought it was very good. In fact, I think there was a round of applause at the end of the show. So I think the kids enjoyed it too.
Okay.
So highly, highly recommend. And most of what I've been looking at is just all these books. I have switched out. I realized that all the books that I have around me were all the books that I needed for researching and doing my book proposal, but they were up here. So I moved everything down to my office. So most of these books behind me now have nothing to do with what we talk about on the podcast or what I'm writing about, because I need those downstairs. So here's just books I enjoy reading, but they don't have anything to do with what we're talking about. So
all right, is that you for this week?
I think that's me for this week. What about you, Pat?
Well, I'm conflicted as to what to recommend, really. So there is a very English comedy show called Detectorists.
Detectorists. Okay.
And so these are people who go out doing metal detecting.
Oh, my husband and I have just been talking about this. Okay,
I was just
more.
at the beach and we were watching the metal detectors on the beach. And so I've just been talking about it too. So I love this.
Tell me more.
So it's a comedy, and it is a very gentle comedy. You could watch this with the whole family. In fact, kids might be a little bit, is this funny? It is absolutely. It's about the characters that are in it, because it's in a sort of small English town, and there's a little committee, a little group that meet up and they go out detectoring. And, they bring what they find back to the village hall and lay it out on a table, and it's bottle caps and buttons and, it's crazy stuff. And it's really about the sort of tensions in these kind of small committee groups, and there is another club in a neighboring town. And there's the competition with them.
Competitive detectorists.
I'm all in. I love this. I can't wait to go find it.
Mackenzie Crook is one of the characters in it. In fact, I think he might have written it. That you would know him from The Office and from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
But he plays a very different character. He's just this kind of slightly deadbeat guy going out trying to find all this stuff. And yeah, it is very funny, but very gentle humor. And when you get into it, it's fantastic.
Oh, I
can't
can't
wait.
wait. I know. I'm so excited. We were just talking about this because we did this huge yard reconstruction thing. And I, at one point, actually the dog found, but then I found it was a Ronald Reagan presidential election pin, all rusted and stuff that was, unearthed when the house was being built. And I thought back then, I was like, we should get a metal detector and just see if there's anything else under
Just
there.
see
We
what's
never
there.
did. And then they laid the turf over it. And now I'm like, we've lost our golden opportunity to dig. Oh, I want to be a detectorist. That's amazing.
I love it.
Okay. So let's see, Missy, do you have any look, listen, learns?
I do. I have two quick ones. One is a show. I actually did find a show called Single Drunk Female. It's on Hulu. Have either of you watched it?
No.
Yeah, Ali Sheedy plays the very overbearing mom of this 20-something who just flames out, like has a
Oh,
very
how does
public.
Ali Sheedy have a 20-year-old?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know. That's a little depressing because she's supposed to be
Ali
our age.
Sheedy's 16, right?
Right.
Hmm.
But I've watched maybe 2/3 of it. It's only like 6 episodes, so I've not quite finished it yet. But I think it's done really well, really thoughtfully. It's funny. And, there's some things that are maybe a little bit extreme from real life because it's television, but I think it's a thoughtful look at what happens when someone tries to get sober
Mm.
and the challenges of that. And as we talked about earlier, for our age people, we need to be cutting back, and we may not have an actual, like, she's an alcoholic. That's different. I have personal experience, family experience with alcoholism. It's not the same as, hey, I need to cut back, but there are some crossover issues. So it's a really interesting watch right now. And it's not heavy. It sounds like a heavy topic, but it's not heavy. They do a good job with it. So that's a short and sweet something to watch if you are still looking for a television show. And then I was just on this girls' trip, and somebody got as a gift the color astrology book. So it's like astrology, but with your colors. And we had a blast with it. It's a really good gift to keep in your stash of, birthday gifts, but it's a color for every day of the year. And it goes through what your color means and how you can embrace that color. And then it has a color for the month. So you can also kind of be like, I'm in January. So I have my January color and my day color, and it tells you who you're compatible with. And we were joking that it might have ruined a few marriages because several of us were not compatible with our husband's dates.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, there's no October in there.
Chris had a woman who was super into astrology before we ever met to tell him, like, strongly, like, I'm warning, like, never get in a relationship with a Scorpio.
Uh-oh.
I know. We've been married 20 years. It's worked out.
It's worked out. Exactly. Yeah. So not an exact science, any of this, but it was a ton of fun. So color astrology book, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's a great gift item to keep, and just it's fun, be fun to have.
So the one
Look
book
up all your
works for
people.
everybody, or is it a book per sign?
No, everybody. Like the
Okay.
book has every day of the year in it. So it's super fun to flip around and read. And you could, like, if you're in a group, you can do the whole group. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that is fun. Okay, I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, put it in your gift stash.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I love this because, detectorist. I'm putting that right on the list.
Me too. I'm going to find it today.
And if you love that, there's another British comedy show called Ghosts about this couple who inherit a family house, a big family house. And we find it absolutely hilarious. It's so well done. So well done.
I mean, British TV. I mean, that's, instead of doing all the Netflix, we should just go over to BBC and
Well,
y'all know how to do it
like
right.
Best American TV has come out of just copying British television.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. Oh, everybody's timers are going off. It's 11 o'clock.
It's 11.
Hey, and we finished on time. I'm so proud of it. So much for my snooze. My goodness, I thought I had made it quiet, but I guess alarms go past the mute. So, all right.
Well, we'll have to have you back. I could talk about menopause all day. I just got back from a 50th birthday trip. where not my 50th, I'd like to make that clear. But 50th birthday
You got
trip.
1 year left.
Hey.
Oh, gosh.
There was lots of talk of perimenopause, menopause, and it's just the time of life we're in, and it is so important to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. And so many women won't just like open up and talk about it. And
Yeah.
why?
Yes, we need to normalize it. I
We
think,
do.
yeah,
We
anybody
do.
who's willing to talk about it, go talk about it, because the more we do, that'll give people the extra comfort to know that they can too. So
Yeah.
all of
And I
us
hope our
loudmouths
listeners
need to
really
do it.
heard all the exciting, like hot flashes aren't exciting, but there's a lot of excitement left in life after this. And there's a lot of joy ahead of us. And
Yes,
that's what we need to focus on.
yeah. It's like a big wave in the ocean. You just need to get past the wave, and then it's calm
Surf the
again.
wave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go right through it. Oh my goodness. Well, this was so much fun. I am so glad to know you and know all this incredible work that you're doing
Yes.
and normalizing
been
menopause and making sure that I just love thinking about all these corporate men that need to be thinking about menopause and how it affects their employees and the fact that they're actually facing the discomfort and doing it. And, I think it's amazing. So
One of my
Yep.
favorite guys is the chief fire officer for Cheshire, which is a big area. And so chief fire officer, important job. And he called me in to do a workshop and he had a t-shirt that said, "Ask me about menopause."
oh my God.
But he's saying
love
to
him.
this big room full of guys who are all in their uniforms and are all got to say yes sir, no sir. And they, "Ask me about menopause."
Oh my God. But you know what? And then, because maybe they don't talk about it at home, but if they learn about it at the workplace, I mean, it just brings that much more understanding to
Yeah.
every woman in their lives. So yeah, wonderful. Start at the workplace, bring it home, and your wife will just be all the happier to know that,
Yeah.
oh, you get it. Okay. Yeah. I'm
Start
not
changing the world.
Yes.
One person at a time.
Yes.
right.
One uterus at a
That's right.
time. Oh, well, thank you so much. I really,
Yes.
really appreciate your time.
Well,
Have a
thank
good
you. I've
evening.
really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and ... podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show today. And if you know someone else who could benefit from today's episode, be sure to share it with them. Also, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in the show notes over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the AND spelled out. In between shows, you can find us at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. You can find links to the group, all of our socials, and our questions and comments section over at our website, momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.